upgrading the Dovin Architect of Law Planeswalker deck. Hey everyone, it's vmcampos Magic Fan. I've got another Planeswalker upgrade video for you. This video is for beginning to intermediate players who want to take the starting point Planeswalker deck and upgrade it a little bit. I'm going to focus on Ravnica Allegiance only cards that are common or uncommon. So it's going to be a budget build, because after all, you can build any amazing deck if you spend enough money. Let's get started. The jewel of the deck is the Dovin Architect of Law Planeswalker. This is a 6 casting cost Planeswalker, 5 loyalty counters. When it comes into play, +1, you gain 2 life and draw a card. I like that. -1, tap target creature. It doesn't untap during its controller's next untap step, so you lock down a creature. And -9, tap all permanents target opponent controls. That player skips their next untap step, so they can kind of basically lose a whole turn when you ultimate Dovin. Well, let's see what we can do in this deck. First of all, the lands need a little bit of an upgrade. There are 10 islands, 12 plains, and 4 guild gates. That means there's 26 lands in total. I think that's too much. So first of all, I'm going to take out 2 plains and replace them with 2 Bring to Trial. These are a couple of sorceries for 3 mana. Exile target creature with power 4 or greater. So we're going to take out a few of the opponent's creatures that are big and getting in our way. Bring to Trial. Next, the deck comes with 3 Arrester's Zeal. I don't like those too much, so I'm going to take them out and instead put 3 Thought Collapse. This is a blue-white deck. Therefore, we should have some counter spells, some counter magic to control the opponent. There are no counter spells at all in the deck. I'm going to add 3. Thought Collapse, 3 mana, instant, counter target spell. Its controller puts the top 3 cards of their library into their graveyard. So stop their spell, mill their deck a little bit. I'm going to put those instead of the Arrester's Zeal. I'm keeping the Summary Judgment as is. This is 2 mana, instant. It deals 3 damage to target tapped creature. So as your opponent attacks you, 3 damage to it to hopefully take it out. Or Addendum, if you cast the spell during your main phase, it deals 5 damage to that creature instead. So if they hit you and you wait your turn, you can have it deal 5 damage to the creature. Keeping the Unbreakable Formation, this is a rare card. Creatures you control gain Indestructible if you cast it instantly on their turn, or Addendum if you cast it during your turn. Put a 1/1 counter on each of those creatures, and they gain Vigilance. Nice. The deck comes with some exclusive cards. This is Dovin's Dismissal. This is number 267 or 259. You can only get this pair of cards in the Planeswalker deck. 4 mana, instant. Put up to 1 target tapped creature on top of its owner's library. So what happens is they attack you, their creature taps, you instantly send it back to the top of their library, you dismiss it. Next, you may search your library and or graveyard for a card named Dovin Architect of Law. Reveal it, put it into your hand, and then shuffle. So it lets you go get your Planeswalker after their creature tried to attack you. Keeping those. The deck comes with 3 Dovin's Automaton. There's another exclusive card, number 268 of 259. 4 casting cost Artifact, Homunculus. 3/3. As long as you control a Dovin Planeswalker, Dovin's Automaton gets +2/+2 and has Vigilance. Okay, that's kind of cool, but it really relies on having your Planeswalker. So I'm going to remove 1 Automaton and instead replace it with an Azorius Knight Arbiter to complement the one that's already in the deck. Is a 5 casting cost Human Knight, 2/5 with Vigilance, and it cannot be blocked. So you'll have a strong, vigilant creature that cannot be blocked. I want 2 of them in the deck So I'll take out one of the automatons. And one way to upgrade a deck is to put more of cards that are only in single. There was only one Arbiter, I want two, so I'll just take out one automaton. That gets the job done. I'm going to keep the two Spirit of the Spires. This is a 4 casting cost spirit creature. 2/4, flying. Other creatures you control with flying get +0/+1. Okay, I like that. Your flying creatures will get a little stronger in toughness, and this pairs really well with the Wild Storm Drake. There's also 2 of these in the deck. This is a 5 casting cost creature Drake, 3/3, flying. Other creatures you control with flying get +1/+0. So if you have both of these on the battlefield, all your creatures are getting +1/+1. Plus you've got some nice creatures. So sort of the style of the deck that I'm seeing is perhaps relying a little bit on flying creatures. So that means I'm going to completely remove the 2 Prowling Caracal. This cat is a 3/1 for 2 mana, but I'm going to focus a little bit more on creatures because of the 2 other cards I mentioned. So I'm going to add 2 Senate Griffins. This is a 2 with 2 Azorius mana. That's either white or blue mana that you pay. You get a Griffin 3/2. It has flying, and when it enters the battlefield, scry 1. So look at the next card that's coming up, decide if you like it or not, put it at the bottom of your library or keep it at the top. So 2 of those because I'm going to focus this deck a little bit more on flying. That means I'm keeping the 3 Concordia Pegasi, as is. For only 2 mana, you get a 1/3 flyer. So you get a good defender and a little bit of damage in the air. So keeping those. I've got here a Chillbringer, 5 mana elemental, flying, 3/3. When it enters the battlefield, tap target creature and opponent controls. It does not untap during its next controller's untap step. So you lock down their creature for 1 turn, you get a 3/3 flyer, which can get stronger if you've got the Spirit of the Spires or the Windstorm Drake. There's only 1, so I want to add another one. And the way I'm going to add that is by removing 1 Elite Arrestor. There's 4 of them in the deck, so I'm going to remove 1 to have a Chillbringer. I'm keeping the flying Senate Courier. This is a 1/4 for 3 mana, and it flies, and then you pay 1 and a white, and it gains Vigilance. So a little defender there if you've got the mana for it. If not, it's a 1/4 flyer. Okay, so it's not going to be all flyers, but here's Elite Arrestor. There's 4 of them in the deck. I'm only going to keep 2. For 1 mana, you get a creature, Human Soldier 0/3. You pay 1 and a blue to tap another creature. So you can lock down their creature, and this is one of the exclusive cards, number 266 of 259. So I'm going to keep 2 of those. I already took out 1 for the Chillbringer, but I'm going to take out another one to add a 10th District Veteran. I'll have 2 10th District Veterans, and that is a 3 casting cost Human Soldier with Vigilance, 2/3, and when it attacks, untap another target creature you control. So you can sort of give Vigilance to another creature when this one attacks. I'm going to put 2 of them. I'm going to keep the Sphinx's Insight. This is an instant for 4 mana, white and blue. Draw 2 cards. Addendum. If you cast this spell during your main phase, you gain 2 life. So either draw 2 cards or draw 2 cards and gain 2 life, whichever one you like. There's only 1. You can decide to put more if you want to focus a little bit more on the card draw of the deck. I'm focusing more on flyers. I'm keeping the Verity Circle. This is a rare 3 casting cost enchantment. Whenever a creature an opponent controls becomes tapped, if it isn't being declared as an attacker, you may draw a card. And you've got other things that tap your opponent's creatures. Chillbringer will tap it. Your Planeswalker will tap, or this enchantment will also tap for 5 mana, tap a creature without flying, so you can get card draw off of your opponent's tapped creatures. And then lastly, we've got the Code of Constraint. I'm going to remove that completely to instead add 2 La Mage's Binding. It's also 3 mana like the card I just removed, but it's an enchantment with flash, so you can cast it during your opponent's turn and get this. Enchant a creature. It cannot attack or block, or its activated abilities cannot be activated. So you really lock down a creature, even during their turn, a flash enchantment. Let's look at the sideboard. So I've got here in the sideboard 4 copies of Exposed to Daylight, just in case your opponent is running a lot of artifacts or enchantments. Instantly destroy target artifact or enchantment, and you scry 1. So that's in the sideboard after you determine if your opponent is playing a lot of artifacts or enchantments. If your opponent is playing a lot of flyers, you may want a Sky Tether or 2 or 3 or 4. This is an enchantment aura for 1 white mana, enchanted creature. It gets Defender and loses flying. So you make your flyers, your opponent's flyers fall to the ground, and they lose flying, and they become a defender so they can no longer attack. If you see that your opponent is running a lot of fast spells, for the sideboard, I've got Quench. This is a counter spell for 2. Counter target spell unless its controller pays 2. So this is a great counter spell early on in the game to supplement the Thought Collapse, which might be for a little later in the game because it's unconditional. 1 more mana. There's only 2 mana, and if they don't have enough mana to pay for it, they are quenched. You could add the 4th Thought Collapse, if necessary, to be able to counter your opponent's spells. And 1 more item in the sideboard, you could have the split card Depose plus Deploy. You can cast an instant, tap target creature. Well, that'll work with your Verity Circle, and you draw a card. Or, you can pay 2 and a white and a blue, instantly create 2 1/1 colorless Thopter tokens with flying, and then you gain 1 life for each creature you control. So if you've got a lot of low casting cost creatures, which is great in white, once you cast this spell, you're going to gain back a lot of life to further prolong the game, to further be in control of the game, which is perfect in blue and white. So that's in the sideboard, and you can decide to alter the deck in the 2nd or 3rd game with this card. Lastly, the big money upgrades. You can have the Absorb counter spell. This lets you counter a spell for 3, and you gain 3 life. So keeping ahead of your opponent in life as you build up your Planeswalker or get your flying creatures out could be really helpful. Now this is a rare, so it's part of the big money upgrades, but it's not too expensive. Moving up a little bit more over here is Dovin Grand Arbiter, the other version of Dovin in this set. For 3 mana, you get a Dovin Planeswalker with 3 loyalty counters, +1. Until end of turn, whenever a creature you control deals combat damage to a player, put a loyalty counter on Dovin. So if you've got flyers going on, you activate this ability, and when they do damage to your opponent, you will get more loyalty to Dovin. With more loyalty, you can, -1, create a 1/1 colorless Thopter artifact with flying, and you gain a life. So you can create lots of Thopters, perhaps. Then the ultimate, -7. Look at the top 10 cards of your library, put 3 of them into your hand, and the rest at the bottom in a random order. So you can really dig through your deck to get the 3 best cards out of the next 10 that you would get if you can ultimate him, which you will be able to pretty easily because you'll have more flyers than your opponent, you'll do damage more often, and you'll get him to a higher loyalty faster. And lastly, for the big money cards, how about a shock land? Instead of the slow gates, which come into the battlefield tapped, you can get one of these, which is a plains and an island. Sometimes it's valuable to work with basic land cards. These are not basic land cards, they're gates. And you can choose to have it come in tapped, or pay 2 life and it comes into the battlefield untapped. So if necessary, early on, turn 1, play it tapped when it doesn't quite matter, or if you really need it, pay the 2 life, it shocks you for 2, and you've got an untapped land. You can put a whole playset of these, but these are the ones that are the priciest upgrade, and they're rare. So there you go, that was my upgrade for the Dovin Architect of Law Planeswalker deck. What do you think? This deck focused on common and uncommon cards and went toward the direction of more flying creatures. How would you improve the deck? What about on a budget, commons and uncommons? What about in a more pricey way? Do you got any suggestions for valuable cards that could be added to the deck? Sticking with Ravnica, Allegiance perhaps, or what about any other cards out there that you might have? Let me know in the comments below. If you liked this video, don't forget to subscribe, to like and share, or comment. Follow me on YouTube, Twitter, or Patreon. If you head on over to Patreon and contribute at the $2 range, I will send you a bunch of vintage Magic cards for my collection. At the $1 range, you get access to some exclusive content, like the longer versions of my Magic Arena podcast. Or if you can't quite subscribe at the moment, no worries. Head on over to patreon.com/vmcampos anyway to get a lot of great free stuff. In any event, this has been VM Campos. See you on Ravnica.